Welcome everybody to the Mile High Podcast. And before announcing our guest, who is a great friend of mine, that the date for the next year's event has been version 5.0 will be August 17th to 20th, 2007. When introducing my guest, I want to say something special about him. For our guidebook that we gave out was phenomenal about the NeuroStorm as well. And for people that were there and got that guidebook, make sure you read that and look at that. And the people that weren't there, remember that if you read, there's a handful left. Our guest, Dr. David Fletcher, he is the chairman and chief clinical officer of the Chiropractic Leadership Alliance. I'm so because I love conversing about the nervous system, about technology, and about instrumentation. Held it in here. Welcome, Dr. David Fletcher.
Oh, Danny, it's great, and you know, you probably saw me look down there. I was making my version 5 in my own calendar because, and let me just pass kudos of our August experience at MH4. Really, I've been there from the beginning. You know, CLA has been supportive from the before. Really tipped the scales. You know, kudos to yourself, Rochelle, and all the other endless hours of effort that go into it. We're listening in on a podcast here. Yes, I am going to be a little bit on the promotional side, but please book out the time. Honestly, just you know, it's a suburb, I could say, of Denver, but you look out over the mountains. So, what more could you want?
Well, you know, I discovered something which was used a new hotel, and they had these great. I didn't even know this during the event. They had these great trails for biking and running all around. You know, some people knew that. I didn't even realize that. So it's a great area. So, and you can get outdoors and not just go to a leisure day, enjoy the beauty of
It was just around the corner from that,
right.
And I was blown away. There were like jackrabbits jumping over top of things. It was a beautiful what we do best, yeah. Which is you know, I think that what we should touch on today is sort of under this quick theme of elevating the excellence within chiropractic. What do you think?
The excellence of chiropractic. I think we have a title now of the podcast.
It never fails,
there
right?
You go. And with that, I'd like to start with defining some terms that maybe have heard you speak and have been connected to CLA, but for people that have not been using instrumentation, neuroplasticity, why is that important? And why is that concept important? What does it mean?
Well, I think that the easiest way to understand neuroplasticity is to bring it down to layman's terms, which they would understand. Yet I'll tell you a simple story about that in a moment. But neuroplasticity means adaptability. And the reality is that the adaptive state. Why? Because the nervous system is no longer rigid as was what we were taught in our school years. So sort of like if you injured it, it was kind of like your tap, you know, what do you do with it once it's broken? You have to fix it or it just doesn't work. Well, what we know now is no matter what you, and this is part of the 33 principles we've always lived with in chiropractic, we'll do the best it can with what it has 100% of the time. And as a result of that, it can two aspects of the neurofunctional tissue response and basically reorganizes, beautiful term for all, organizes to be as efficient as it can be with what it has. So the cellular level, and especially at the functioning control cellular level, which we're going to talk about neuronal impulse and things of that nature, you really are having adaptability at the greatest. And we talk about human plasticity because without adaptability, you live in a homeostatic world But with adaptability, you live in a homeodynamic world. Homeodynamism, it means that what we really understand more than anything is tomorrow, that next millisecond, whether it's better, different, or just different.
I love that, homeodynamism. That's awesome.
Your term day.
If we know what neuroplasticity is, let's talk about what a NeuroStorm is.
Yeah, so I think that, do you remember Dr. the Life Institute? One of the things that they did such an amazing job with in the past decade anyways, was that they shone the light from a chiropractic synthetic dominance. We really are many times looking, and I don't want to ever categorize what they teach, so please, I'm just using this as a starting point for conversation, so I'm not suggesting there's any limits. Sympathetic dominance is what really drives the benefits of chiropractic. In other words, sort of, but they study how that reaction comes out of control. In this one, there's sympathetic dominance. It says you and I, Danny, is evidence. And as a result of that, sympathetic dominance is the only way the body can compensate for that. In other words, associated with this progressive interference of the parasympathetic side of genes. A run train that takes so many different paths and can start from the moment that they were born.
Right.
I think if we really is the observation of the neural spinal cord. And so adverse mechanical there's always a posturalization of NeuroStorm. And as a result of that, I think in a moment about instrumentation at the neural control mechanisms. But let's not take away, these things which are what we are trained to do, these things we are trained to look at, palpate and observe, and see a NeuroStorm in play. High flexion is better, this Danny, than you interpreting. No. Listen, whose work is meant to be? There's nobody's taking time like you have to look at adverse mechanical. And as a result of that, if we translate that to people who don't know what you and I are talking about in EMGs and all the rest of it, but we take that and we highly flex to vent the.
Well, and there's someone who, a non-chiropractor quote that I love to use when talking to practice members, and Dr. Mace said that the life that you led when your body is up to it, and created these NeuroStorms, it holds the armoring becomes how you hold your body.
I really bring that word because as much as, number one, I'll use this analogy as we go down this way, is number one, you don't try and risky business. So I say because when you go and adjust patients, but like in looking at a storm situation, you better be using instrumentation to identify how you are going to fly your plane in that storm. And so the analogy that I made is visual flight rules, which allows you to get up in a plane, you better know how to land it, which is care planning, but you better know what you're doing. Is that you're going to be a professional pilot. You better know what's called IFR, which is instrument flight reading. And it means that you better know how to read instruments so that you can manage your way through storms.
So there you go. That is a great analogy with looking at posture, looking at structural shifts with a live or with a photo or one of those systems. But instrumentation of what's going on inside is a completely different area. And let's walk through. Let's talk about heart rate variability. And
Sure.
I believe you call
it is. And so a thought line that allows people to stay organized so that they don't, that you have to be thinking or at least be observing of. And so I call it the PET or the PET process that goes along with it. And P stands for pulse wave profiling. It's great variability. Doctors aren't really trained to look at the cardiology affiliated with it, but they're perfectly trained to look at the altitude, if you will, or the amount of that is so the PW to an instrument, and in a very controlled and very is checking your G simultaneously. And so it's a real autonomic station. And while you're putting your hand into this system, it's then taking the data from the spacing of the heart rates and the amplitude. And what we do is that we calculate whether or not trapped in a neurostorm, of whether they are locked into a sympathetic dominant or whether they have a very weakened and incapable parasympathetic response. It's a 3 to 5 any chiropractor, not the profession that made game to HRV profiling. So it's time for us to step it up. It's inexpensive. It's a fantastic tool to use, and everyone thinks the adaptability conference.
I did. It was a shifts to sympathetic.
Yes, one of the things you're doing, it's a great thing, of the graphing that we did, because if you took a look at a lot of different graphs that they have, which are bar graphs and all these different things, the LA program, is that it has what we call the rainbow graph. There's a graphic that that chiropractic patients fall into, which is very different than average patients. Chiropractic patients have greater amplitude or more capacity. We need as we can, because what we need to do is we need to pause is that if somebody becomes, and we see this, go and have a hard workout, you're going to see that it is the sympathetic side. Big deal. That's what happens. Your body is in a stress response. That's what exercise is supposed to do. However, after a latent, healthy response can pull you back. Put the patient which usually means that they have a long history of toxic overload within their system, medications or otherwise, and they're living. We put them in a completely quiet, provocative HR, which is supposed to be the motives, is that they're cracking way over to the sympathetic side, not because they were exercising, but mostly because they're subluxated. They just don't have the control. And is that it is going to start to break apart. I could drop down.
Right.
Now, more of the adrenergic, try to see the sympathetic that existed, and it shifts back and then drops like a stone. See, and what I want listeners to pick up is that they not only see an abrupt change of something like exercise, but you can literally, if you're interpretive, this tracing and trying to use that term. That's
foot's on the gas pedal, you're going into sympathetic. On that graph, the rainbow graph, you're shifting to the left, but we're just talking this on physiology level. Person's, they're chronically in drop down, and the dropping down represents what?
This is really key. Because let's just say that to the right side in okay, so they're going, and as that begins to fail, they then start to actually have no gas in the tank, which is when they actually get to the worst tank, and their breaks.
I've heard it's morbidity state or moving towards morbidity.
I created that term, and what it means is that they're on a morbidity shift. It's dropping down, drifting. We don't get many of those patients chiropractic, and you know why the answer is.
Yeah, they're more in the looking at a wellness chiropractic visit.
Yeah, out on that bonus. So, you know, I think that I hope that inspires people to realize that that is a 3-minute test. We recommend up to any chiropractor can do, so long as the patient has a hand, and they don't even have that with an ear clip. So that it's a beautiful piece of technology.
I've only said this. I haven't heard anybody else said it, but I don't know if it's common to. So for those that are listening, this is a good communication to patients, is that you're the white golf ball, and when you want to be green.
It.
And that's why I love patients, you want to see your white golf ball in the green.
It's perfect.
Yeah, I explain to them it's like golf, and they get it. So in the green, it's not in the green. That's not good. So
I'm you because I'm putting a piece of that idea. So
you guys have, a lot of people play golf, and that was the
title is. I would put Nike. You're getting the idea that this totally the spine, but do we love the spine? Yeah, that's where we do our best work, right?
Well, I think what I heard when you shared that shift, the dropping down, the floating, it gives to understanding, in addition to instrumentation finding of the electromyograph and the thermography. There's a different depth for what's going on. Subluxation is not an event. It is a process. It is not an event. Educating people this one thing by saying this after they got chat. It doesn't happen just now on the table. It's what happens for hours between now and then. I said that to whatever, like 100 people, because the process of an adjustment happens later, and the process of a loss of health, becoming more subluxated, losing neuroplasticity, losing adaptability.
It's a perfect dialogue, and I would just say what you said. I've always been about a process. Being Canadian, I use the word process, but but we do care.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
We have to do something, go back step.
Yeah, okay, sure.
I didn't re-hit record.
Oh, there you go. So we lost a whole bunch of good stuff. Well, we practiced.
I just realized the clock wasn't going.
No worries. So what was airplane?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, good.
Great analogy, because you talked about the eye-hand part, right? That's like the things that we do, looking at structural shifts, looking at weight balance, feeling with our hands, obviously. But then there's a whole other layer of meditation, and the instrument that way. And that's that one area of instrumentation, looking at a neuroability. Let's talk about that.
Really started to develop probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And the Neuro Pulse is an instrument which is truly a full autonomic station. So to calculate autonomic strength and pulse collects we clip an ear. It's also checking the galvanic skin response, so we're looking at the patient's anxiety levels and their temperature levels. All of these are autonomic functions. So it becomes an autonomic. We know more than anything, we have an opportunity to, which was really Michael Hall and I'm going to be talking about in that moment with research. And also when you think about how chiropractic really works, is that it isn't so much sympathetic dominance, but incompetence. This responsiveness and everything, and at least progressive athleticism. And just for our listeners to really sort of hit that home and hit a home run with them, it's one of the reasons that chiropractic it's the only reason really why chiropractic is that chiropractic has spent the last 100+ years a technique called the adjustment, which targets to re-engage. Obviously, everything in between is associated with neurofunctional, but when you take a look at the great techniques that have lasted the time. It is the network modeling, which is decompressing and winding the upper cervical tone, but parasympathetics especially, of the vagal tone. For instance, anything that's drop Thompson. These are the type of techniques that re-engage, and that's why we're so effective.
Right. In terms like the neural functional unit, and Ward with stressology talked about that as well. The spinal, that spinal meningeal functional unit. Now I've heard you do a very long podcast. Let's get that. It shifts to parasympathetic, and then it shifts to other quadrants. The instrument, but also people that don't, to understand that process, because I think it adds a whole nother dimension to understanding the person's process of a loss of spinal and neural integrity.
Want a healthy individual to keep them highly adaptable is autonomic nervous system to do, and this is where the planet is that we created something called the rainbow graph. And the zone, which is, go ahead and say it, is like a golf green.
Yes. So the analogy is this, and I always tell them that the little white dot is you. You're like a golf ball, and you want to be in the green, because if you're the golf ball, where do you? So I say, there you go. That's where we're going for as your nerve system gets healthier.
Boy, we could really build on that with old.
We could.
Yes, we could. But listen, so when that wasn't just sort of simply put there. When we were mapping the adjusted versus non-adjusted, operated in a very good narrow range, so that's well balanced. But most importantly, they had much more amplitude, or at least a much more fully charged autonomic nervous system than the average. I take the rainbow up, and that's your target. So if you plot to the left of that, which we say, listen, everybody is able to get stressed out but recover from the stress. Let's take exercise, for instance, which would be soon after you exercised. Very simply, your body would refer to as a NeuroStorm, meaning that it's over-engaging the sympathetic. So in our graph, you shift to the left. All right? You dig the real gauge back to normal, spontaneously. 33 principles, right? So here we go, is that we, when I say no history of exercise, we bring them into an offset in a quieted place and place their hand in this instrument and physical quieted state. We're watching their GS, making sure that they're idling, if you would. And when we finish enough data for these data streams that we then measure the heart rate on, we then look and see whether they plot in that green box outside of the green box. In most cases, who have no idea, because don't forget, we're testing them, Danny, at dead, ready at rest. So they've got medications, toxicity, subluxations. They're completely out of sync with themselves, and all of a sudden, exactly that they're out of sync. think.
Utilizing energy, right.
They're in a very poorly adapted resistance.
Right.
So they drift to the left. Now, what we've been able to understand longer than, sadly that's my world. What we understand is that when a patient drifts left, and there's a spontaneous natural ability to try and draw them back, which is the parasympathetics, what happens many times is the body starts to fatigue, and as they start engaging that recovery, and use the adrenal functions more and more and more, they become exhausted. They drift a little, but then they stay locked in, and they drop down on the left, and they then traverse over. And I'll give that, so we know, you got it, upper left, so they're sitting at a stop sign, revving their engine, breaking down the engine parts.
Got it.
When they're over to the right, at the top right, they have their parking brake on.
Got it.
Okay? As they drift, they're dry a little gas in their tank. And as they go to the engine with no gas in the tank.
Got it.
Got it? So as we were talking about, at different times, Danny, you and I, many people in the bottom right.
In the hospital system, they tend not to be going into a wellness chiropractic office.
Yeah, but there's still the people, even though it takes longer and it takes more work, things that we've been able to do is take other data points from just HRV, EMG, combine them with the thermals, so that all of what I just said there can be condensed into a single number. We actually publish a couple of numbers on that graph, so that you survey where's the golf ball.
Isn't it great?
Is it in the rough or is it on the green? And the truth is, when you adjust something, because that's what is recovery. You can go incidentally, just like we did with that exercise patient. If you give people give them a few adjustments, it'll help them lift a little bit. But they're somewhere between 12 weeks and 12.
Exactly.
You want this.
And that's what we tell practice members. Like, once you understand what this means for you, I personally see as a practitioner, I alluded a moment ago, it gives you so much more dimension to that's really what we have to help people understand. Part of it has communicated, because it's based, about the profession, and communicated subluxation as an event, fixing a person. The subluxation is a process. I love that analogy of the leaf, but really direction, and seeing the adjustment as a process of an upward spiral rather than an event. And last week, my education, as many people as I could, as I got off the table, this one thing, that the just now on the table, it's happening for hours and hours after next, so that they know there's a process that the body is doing. It's the BJ used to say that the adjustment's what happens after you're back. So understanding this instrumentation gives you another depth to understand the process of the person's health.
What pendulum in both do the recovery of getting back at it. It's never linear. I can tell you that much. And the way that chiropractic does a couple of things is that it's out, which is a nerve cause. When we get over that and we talk about process of how we're going to look at this spiraling down or spiraling up of to be healthy to the ground. And listen, one of the great things that I took away in my early days of lucky me, I got a chance to literally live in the world of is so wonderful. I can't even begin to tell you how some of the things that we are outside wellness is that the nervous system learns. In other words, the genome and within our innate capacities. So, and or as Stevenson said, it arouses innate.
Right.
And because of that, we then rely upon a learning nervous system, which is talked about. And the second is that in the same stick, it's garbage in, garbage out, good in. It's just as bad to apply a good adjustment to the positive. So, ways that we map and heal a patient through the adjustive process, you're way ahead of the game.
Right.
If you want to get really good at it, you start to develop your skill sets of adjusting. You don't fly blind.
It's additional and special plus happy birthday.
So don't write that any longer.
But let's help define that other thing. So there's a sympathetic and parasympathetic shift.
Sure.
And then you use your hand to charge and drop down.
So it's describe it. So into where you're going to go. And so one of the things that looking at what a charge is in the autonomic nervous system for it to take on stress. Mm-hmm. Okay? So if you are low on that scale, you become highly vulnerable. It isn't even so much that you can't recover. You know, even if you're down low. You take on heavy stress, very little stress. And
then this process land of addressing it somehow in that way, because you have no tail.
That's right. And so we've tried to make an equation, but one of the other things, and I really, autonomics are where the life of and healing, and we've gone through the parasympathetic polyvagal theory is associated with that sympathetic dominance, but we really have to then go and force, which is gravity. Can they adapt to gravity from that? And as a result of that, able to function in gravity. And we've been given an entire division of the nervous system to function in gravity, and it's called your motor nervous system. It allows the compressive forces and to have. So we have to look at how we use energy in our motor system, and that's where a simple test, which Daniel and all of with the subluxation looks at the dynamic loading of the and it's so we want to use on this podcast. It takes under 2 minutes, so now we're up to 5 minutes, 2 minutes to run a 15-segment test within an EMG study. And the value it gives you, Danny, as you've the torque response, the posturalization, brilliant.
And this is a good concept for people to understand, and a triad, technology changing, which actually is something Anthony Robbins also talks about too, which is that you have to, there's perception, structure, and I describe that the side of that triad of the physiology changing, and if your neural behavior, okay, and if your neural behavior, Anthony Robbins talks about, which you talked about in your talk at Mile High that I want to talk about, is the gap. Now he talks about from a different area, business mastery program, about to help people have to understand the gap of where they are. The bigger than what it could be, and then how you service is how you make change. Now we talk about the gap in terms of the nervous system. So let's
and I think that it's a beautiful analogy. We actually for general adaptive potential.
Right.
And so the opposite in terms of what Anthony was talking about there, and I don't mean to confuse people, but we want everybody to live in a wider gap. So when we talk about NRV, and if you have a very low energized nervous system, and so what gap is. Right. In other words, if you have life, you get this experiences out of it. On the other hand, creative people have gaps that are vastly huge, but you have to maintain the gap. Physical, biochemical, and emotional distress is the view. What we know has been proven to raise or widen the gap.
Right.
And that's why we do it. And it is that simple. It's wider under chiropractic and more fully charged a nervous system is, the more capable of saluted.
Let's hit one more thing in this podcast that I'd like to cover is with the Chiropractic Leadership Alliance.
So really exciting stuff. So one of the things that we're to have Christopher Kent as the head of are always leaning on Chris. Initiated is a relationship. I happen to be going down to New Zealand at the end of the week, and we love New Zealand, especially, well, for many reasons, because of Phil McMaster hold. And these are the two sort of lead researchers involved in wide chiropractic subluxation centered research. And he's literally looking at just this very simple study. And it's a simple study that says that when people chiropractic care, and there's neurofunctional tests and reports, they have stay longer and they get more benefit. Not to mean physiologically. We can go into that in a later study. We're just doing a very simple wellness marker study that basically says the chiropractic where they're more informed and more capably measuring their results. The second phase of that satisfaction, look at what changed besides that, and we then look at regression zone and SF30 to say, do you understand that your outside world and vice versa? Message away from chiropractic, or making it so that the event, as you described it, is more of the process of healing versus, you know, fixing ear infections. And don't get me wrong, we know that when you, as you adjusted the ear, the benefit of the healing.
Question. We can't pathologize the subluxation. No. Right? Or the healing process. There's a whole different language of life that we want to help get out of that. That's vital to be able to do that. Guess what? The medical profession is doing that. They're moving towards more, salutogenesis and vitalistic and trying to fix back pain in terms of our research, right? So Leadership Alliance is huge.
Well, I guess it started in the early days, but especially under my tutelage, we've put a tremendous amount of effort into the colleges because is that, number one, if this is going to be a profession that grows not only because of the guys whose birthday it is today, I have to tell you, the quality of the students that's coming out of a chiropractic school these days, and I've been, a number of years, decades in this profession, I am so thrilled. The schools that I affiliate with, which one would say are schools evidence and forms, and that makes me very for the growth and development. We donate equipment, but we don't just analyze. Donated 5 units. And so now, under the guidance of of Life University in downtown hardcore Atlanta and hardcore Spartanburg, and now have 5 units as it looks at subluxation.
Wow, phenomenal.
I mean, huge stuff.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Well, I've got to tell you again, I'm with Chiropractic Leadership Alliance and helping it make sense. And I'll make sure to put that in the post so you
never tell where.
And I'm in Chiropractic's future. We put a big amount of effort into Chiropractic's future. We want students to be at Mile High because going into the program is vital. They are going to do things 5 or 10 years from now, and if in fact it's going to be through now. So we want, in 2 decades from now, we want to make sure that a lot of students get to Mile High and connect with CLA.
Well, and I appreciate going back towards the High group. I mean, but listen, and in the same way, it was so much fun being. I'll say it again. Was this cross like and Donald, of course, and we've put our time in such a great way to lift it up, and then to watch the dynamism. It's spectacular. So one of the things that I do in the profession, not leaving it, but for those of you who are never shirk the of looking at the legacy that you're leaving in your practice community, in your faith community, and otherwise. Everything ties to chiropractic. If you let.
And I'm grateful for you being Mile High. Looking forward to putting together the schedule. Connect with CLA. Where do they do that?
Couldn't be any easier. Yourself. It's insightcla.com, just because we sell the
Insight group on Facebook as well.
Oh, it's a great one. For those of you who use the Insight or are more interested, just go on the Facebook, and it's called the Insight. It's Insight CLA Forum. Join us. We have great case joke or two.
And I got to tell you something funny. Subluxation.com. And I was there. Patrick Chitempo was speaking. This new thing, the World Wide Web. The URL subluxation.
Yep, I know.
And I remember thinking, wow, that's so cool. What is this? How do I look for that? And how cool it is that they got where the URL was at that.
Try and lock down God. Double-edged sword.
Right.
But we really only love to speak. We love to speak to chiropractors, but you got to cross under the arch. Chiropractor doesn't mean you're one of us.
Check out CLA 2017 MH 5.0 and stay tuned for this podcast. If you enjoy the podcast, some feedback on iTunes. You can find this on podcasting stations, many podcasting channels. So have a great day, Dr. David. Thank you for being here with us.
See you later. Bye.
Like our page on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Mile High Chiro.